Hey everyone, welcome back to 996 The Howl. Today we have a more succinct video about the Tempe Entertainment District vote happening May 16th. I already did a video a couple weeks ago, a long video going through the details of the proposal and what the vote entails and all the propositions. This video going to be more succinct, straight to the point. It's delivered and packaged in a very fun, hip way, bit of a lightning round type situation here. We all love myth busting. So if you're, a Coyotes fan or you live in Tempe and this impacts you, and you see online maybe people saying false statements or saying, uninformed, basically spreading misinformation, if you want to get to that point. This is a very quick video. It's 11 myths, I believe, and it just presents the facts as to why these are myths and they are not true. And obviously, this is presented by the organization that wants the vote to go through for the residents of Tempe to vote yes. So maybe some slight bias, but they do a really good job of just presenting the facts, no fluff. So if you see people parading around online with, nefariously presenting false information, whether intentional or they're just ignorant, better to use this video, research, and inform those people that, they may be misinformed and getting some bad information. So this kind of clears it up. And hockey fans, other than Coyotes fans, this is a great quick video to show you why this needs to go through. If you are seeing some bad information out there, this video will correct the record in that sense. So let's get to the first myth. Tax breaks for billionaires. If this goes through, there's going to be tax breaks for the owners of the Coyotes. The truth is it's a net gain of $693 million to the city of Tempe. They create 6,900 permanent jobs. There's no out-of-pocket costs or risks for Tempe. It's not a handout. And they are using what is called giblets, and it's a common development tool and is limited in its duration. We'll get into what a giblet is. I probably shouldn't have dropped out of accounting. The government property lease excise tax, which is a giblet, has been established by the state of Arizona and is a redevelopment tool to initiate development by reducing a project's operating costs by replacing the real property tax with an excise tax. Under the state statute, an excise tax is established for the building type of use and is calculated on the gross square footage of the building. The use of the excise tax cannot continue for more than 25 years and requires that the land and improvements conveyed to a government entity and leased back for private use. The excise tax rate can be abated for the first 8 years after a certificate of occupancy on the building is issued, yada, yada, yada. Abated means to lessen something. We'll get to the word abated a bit later. But what this myth bust is supposed to show is that the Coyotes aren't doing anything nefarious. They're very transparent. The ownership group has laid it all out. Giblets are an Arizona way. It's an Arizona state way to just develop big projects. It, instead of using all the actual value of the property, the city kind of gives the development, the private business, a little bit of a deal to develop on the land that is city owned. So it's a very common, it's by the book. It's just a common development tool. So if you hear people say that the Coyotes, are doing it, they're going about it the wrong way, or they're being sneaky, that is untrue. They're just going by, the state legislature to get this project done. Myth number 2, Tempe loses money on this deal. The truth is, again, no out-of-pocket costs or financial risk for the city of Tempe. The site is currently a toxic landfill generating zero value and revenue for the city. And in fact, it caught on fire last year. A landfill did catch on fire. The site is currently a $210 million liability to the city of Tempe. That includes cleanup and environmental costs. So no matter what happens to this land, if someone is going to build on it, it's going to cost $210 million to clean up. So if the city votes no against the coyotes, they're going to have to use that $210 million still to clean it up for the next, ownership or development group that wants to build on the land. The project financial benefits is $808 million over the next 30 years. Cost of limited tax abatement to Tempe is $115 million over 30 years, whereas a net new gain is $693 million. Again, we'll go to some tax literature here. What is property tax abatement? Abatement means, like I mentioned before, to lessen something. So they're lessening the amount of tax the coyotes have to pay, because some cities have property tax abatement programs that eliminate or significantly reduce property tax payments on a home or property for years or even decades. The purpose of these programs is to attract buyers to locations with low demand, example, landfill, such as city neighborhoods that are in the midst of revitalization efforts. Some cities offer tax abatements citywide, others only offer them in designated areas. Some cities limit these programs to low to middle income property owners. That doesn't really affect the coyotes there. So, yes, the coyotes are getting a sort of deal by the city of Tempe. It's not the true property tax. The city is going to lessen the amount of property tax owed. But in the end, the city of Tempe generates more revenue over a long time, more than what the landfill is currently giving them in terms of revenue. And again, it is a business tool, development tool. It is widely used. It's on the internet, all these definitions like chiplets and tax abatement. They're tools used to promote development, So, the coyotes need to save some money too, but it is not at the detriment of the city of Tempe. If any other developer was going to come and do this, they would go by the same books and investment tools and development tools such as giblets and tax abatement. So it's not just unique to the coyotes and the ownership group. Myth number 3, the land is being sold for $25 an acre. I've never really seen this paraded around, but I guess some people are saying this. The actual purchase price is $25 per square foot, which equals to $50 million. Developer surcharge is $120 per square foot, or $240 million. It pays for environmental cleanup and public infrastructure. Developer pays Tempe an additional $150 per square foot, or $303 million. That's public benefits commitment. Total purchase consideration to Tempe is $295 per square foot, or almost $600 million. Private improvements and developer guaranteeing CFD bonds. So again, this is the amount of money the developer, the Coyotes ownership group, is going to be paying to the city of Tempe. Myth number 4, the project has to generate $78 billion for Tempe to recover its costs. Again, there is no cost to the city of Tempe. The developer's paying everything. Right now, the land is not generating revenue. It's a toxic landfill that caught on fire last year. Project removes a $210 million liability for Tempe taxpayers. So like I said before, it's going to cost the city $210 million to clean up the landfill for anyone, but the coyotes are willing to pay that to build their own development, which is unheard of. Like, why? Like, it makes no sense for a city to sell a piece of land and tell the developer to clean up their own mess. But the coyotes, they really want to do this. It's their goal, it's their vision, it's their mission. They are going to pay and take that off the hands of the city of Tempe. Total financial benefits to Tempe is $693 million over 30 years. On-site tax generation contribution to the bond debt service is not a guaranteed tax to the city of Tempe residents. We'll get into that a bit later, but to pay off the bond debt, they are not going to raise taxes of the residents of Tempe. They are only going to get money from the residents of Tempe if you go into the district and spend money. And what they're going to do is just add 1 or 2% on anything you buy within the district, and that's going to help pay off the bond. So if you are totally against this, You don't want to give money to the Coyotes. You want nothing to do with it. You just don't have to go there and spend money, and everything remains the same for the residents of Tempe. Myth number 5, the project is not privately funded. It is the first privately funded sports and entertainment district in Arizona history. The developer pays all construction costs. Tempe pays zero. The site is a $210 million liability to the city, which is the cleanup cost, and it currently generates no revenue. The Coyotes, again, they are going to cover the cleanup costs regardless of who moves in. If the vote goes no and someone wants to move in to this spot, the city's going to have to pay that $210 million to clean it up. Coyotes are going to take it off the city of Tempe's hands. Bonds are not backed by taxpayers. They are backed by the developer. No taxpayer dollars at risk. General fund revenues will not be used. City of Tempe credit rating will not be affected. Positive increases Tempe bonding capacity. Not really sure what that means. Forgive me for that. So again, no taxpayer dollars at risk. It is not like the situation in Calgary or maybe in Edmonton where they are going to use some public funds to build the new arena in Calgary, or what they did with the new arena in Edmonton. They went and used public funds, not all, maybe some, but here it's just 100% privately funded, privately run. And so the city of Tempe, there's really no risk to them at all. The project will raise taxes. Absolutely no new Tempe taxes will be created by the district. Voluntary surcharge only applies to the businesses located within the district, only applies to those who eat, shop, or live within the new entertainment district. 100% of voluntary surcharge funds go to pay for environmental cleanup and public infrastructure costs. If you don't buy anything or live within the district, you don't pay the surcharge. So it's just reiterating again and again, because you got to bang it into these people's minds that, it's all positives for this. Maybe we'll get into some negatives right here with traffic. But in terms of financial and economic stability and effect on Tempe and its residents, there's virtually nothing that is going to affect them. So let's get into the traffic. Majority of events take place in the evening after work hours. There's 5 freeways located within a 5-mile radius or less. The district is closer to freeway access than the Tempe Center for the Arts and Sun Devil Stadium. Sun Devil Stadium regularly hosts events with attendance over 50,000. I believe that's a football stadium. And the district's arena will only host 16,000 to 17,000 visitors for events. To encourage public transit, the district arena tickets will be a 1-day light rail pass. So let's say you're going to a Coyotes game, you can use that ticket to pay for the Metro rail that runs through Tempe and Phoenix. So, just more environmental goodness. You don't have to, not everyone's going to drive to the arena. They have an incentive to use their ticket to take public transit and reduce emissions and reduce traffic on the road. Myth number 8, finally something like I know about. So Glendale didn't want the Coyotes. You're going to see this probably by a lot of hockey folk who are not so intensely following the Coyotes. So the truth is, the city of Glendale repeatedly tried to keep the Coyotes for contract extensions of 15 to 20 years. However, the Coyotes didn't want to stay in Glendale forever. They always had a mission to move to Tempe or move to Phoenix. Obviously not this ownership group, but ownership groups over the last, 15 years, 10 years, they always wanted to move out of Glendale. It's just not a good area. The population is so much more denser near the Phoenix metro area and Tempe. A lot of more fans there. You don't have to drive 50 minutes, 45 minutes, or take a 45-minute Uber to get to Glendale. So it wasn't a long-term, correct plan to have the Coyotes in Glendale. I'll continue here. Coyotes wanted to move to Tempe instead of staying in Glendale, and that was not well received by Glendale leaders. Notice of a non-extension was the same day as the original date for the Tempe proposal submission. So you'll remember there were so many articles being written by The Athletic during that time, and that was the same time the Coyotes were submitting their proposal to build this district. So imagine, like, I'm not saying the city of Glendale or Glendale, yes, is wrong here. Like, they wanted to keep the Coyotes, but the Coyotes didn't want to. And then if you hear that the Coyotes are literally building a competing arena district that rivals Westgate and Gila River Arena, now Desert Diamond Arena, yeah, of course they're going to be upset and do whatever they can to put a kibosh on that development and project. So that's when Glendale started to do all this funny stuff, kick them out, not be so nice to the Coyotes. And why would they? To be honest, like, I'm not mad at Glendale. This is just, it was both parties. Coyotes didn't want to commit to Glendale. They want to build their own district. And yeah, it's going to compete with Glendale. Once this district is built, that's going to be another prime arena and event space that is going to host a bunch of other things other than hockey. And that's going to be a direct competitor to Glendale and Westgate. So Glendale City Manager public statement confirms that the Coyotes and Tempe wins have been saying for months. Glendale offered a 20-year contract extension. Coyotes rejected it. Coyotes chose to relocate to Tempe. Morello Group has a history of bad deals. Alex Morello and the Morello Group, he is the first Latino majority owner in NHL history. Doesn't really get said that often. He's not like other billionaires. He's not, these Bill Gates type of billionaires, kind of not human, as some would say. But, Alex Morello and the CEO of the Coyotes, Javier Gutierrez, both Latino, both went and wanted the American dream. Javier says that he saw a baseball game, an LA Dodgers baseball game when he was a little kid. He saw a Latino, in the MLB making millions of dollars and living the American dream. And that motivated him to become, a successful businessman. He's been a partner with Alex Morello for a very long time. They have numerous businesses in numerous fields. So you shouldn't treat them like every other billionaire. Just focus on this example. Focus on Alex Morello and Javier. Focus on the individuals. These are Latino billionaires. They want to develop Tempe. They want to create something exciting, something tourists are going to go and come and visit and just revitalize that area of Tempe. They have a 40-year track record of business success. They've participated in highly regulated businesses such as banking, media, food services, and gaming in terms of gambling. They never had a business go into bankruptcy, and he's currently Tempe Business and Community Impact Leader. So the point of the regulated business point there is to show that Alex Morello works in highly regulated areas of business. He's not a scheming guy. He doesn't do nefarious things. He's not squirrely. Like, he does everything by the books because you have to. In banking, for sure you have to. In food, you got, the FDA regulating what goes on in food businesses. In media, you got the FCC to tell them what they can and can't, what content they could put out on the radios. So they're known to be compliant with regulatory bodies. And that is why, the Sky Harbor Phoenix fiasco kind of went quiet, because the ownership group knew what they were doing, followed all the regulations, did it by the book, and now that's not even a concern or an opposition to this vote going through anymore. Second last myth number 10. Developer profits from surcharge. The truth is the voluntary surcharge solely pays for the bonds. So the debt that the Coyote ownership group is going to accrue, it's going to be paid off by the voluntary taxes, like I mentioned, being paid within the district. And it's all going to pay off that debt. It's not going into the pockets of Alex Morello and the ownership group. 100% of surcharge funds go to pay for environmental cleanup and public infrastructure costs. Allows taxpayers to not have to pay for environmental cleanup, unlike every other sports facility in Arizona history. If you don't buy anything or live within the district, you don't pay for the voluntary surcharge. Finally, myth number 11. If development was privately funded, there would be no need for a referendum. The truth, this is the whole reason why there's a vote. It's Arizona law. All zoning changes and development agreements are subject to a referendum within 30 days of being negotiated with a city council municipal entity. Developer proactively taking the approval of the project to the voters. All voters should have a say. And the Tempe City Council did vote 7-0 in favor of the project. So hopefully the residents of Tempe are educated, they're informed. Hopefully all this misinformation and bad information being spread can be squashed by people who are informed and educated and have read up on it. Hopefully this video helps people to realize what this actually is. It's not just a Coyotes arena. It's a Tempe entertainment district involving housing in terms of condos. There's going to be a theater. There's going to be shopping centers, eateries, restaurants. So it's a whole thing. It's not just an arena. It's going to revitalize that area of Tempe. It's going to introduce more tourists. It's going to be a city people want to visit, and not just Phoenix. Now people will have a reason to go to Tempe as well. So hopefully it all goes well. The vote is May 16th, so about 2 months away. And all we can do as Coyotes fans is educate people and inform them. Do not get upset. Do not resort to name calling. No harassing. Just inform them. Send them to this video. Screenshot these myths. Do whatever you have to just inform the people of Tempe who are going to be critical and we would have to rely on to push this arena deal through. So that's it for me. Hopefully that was a short one. Thank you for watching. If you like what you see, spread the word. And as always, thank you for your support.